From the technology that saved several drivers' lives to the technology that has stopped us from running out of oil, F1 has seen some massive innovations.
Schumacher wins the Spanish Grand Prix after an absolutely superlative drive.
But before I begin, let's talk about how there's no motivator like competition. Teams want to be faster, more agile, and more reliable than their counterparts. They do whatever is in their power to ensure that they have the best technology possible. Plus, the entire point of Formula One for manufacturers is, look at how great we're making race cars, so we probably make amazing road cars too. Buy from us. And when these manufacturers are backed by immense financial resources, there's no limit to what can't be achieved. F1 can boast a 70-year-old history of technological advancements. But let's not forget, many of them were banned for not being safe enough. That said, these are the biggest innovations in Formula One. First, we have the rear engine layout. Auto Union found its success with the concept in the 1930s, but it was Cooper T51 from 1959 that made the idea of putting the engine in the back make a lot of sense.
He's going to have quite a lot to say about that afterwards. He just cannot find a way past. Great job there from Malcolm Cook. Cooper T47.
There are 3 benefits to a rear engine. It cuts weight in rear-wheel drive cars. Until recently, most sports cars have been rear-wheel drive. Only now when we're extracting so much power from the engine that it's now become dangerous. But since most sports cars have always been rear-wheel, an engine in the back would cut weight because you wouldn't need a long axle. Before, you'd have the engine in the front, and then a long axle traveling to the rear tires. But eliminating that really made the cars faster and more fuel efficient, and this tech also made handling a lot of fun, because now the engine was within the wheelbase, so having a center of gravity more weighted towards the middle meant that the back of the car wouldn't slide out during corners.
Hamilton might be going for it with Kimi Räikkönen into turn 1. He is going for it, you know. That's very, very close indeed. But they managed not to come into contact, and Hamilton gets the inside line.
And then the third and final benefit is that since the front of the car can be small, it gives you more aerodynamic leeway. In other words, a small front means that the car doesn't have to punch a massive hole in the air, thus making it faster and more efficient. So with the debut of the rear-engine car, no one ever raced in Formula One with an engine in the front. And if you want a real-life example of a car with an engine in the back, just take a look at the Porsche 911. The next innovation went the other way around. It came from road cars to F1. I'm talking about the monocoque chassis. So the Lotus founder, Colin Chapman, had the brilliant idea of bringing this road tech to an F1 car. So when he was building a car for the 1962 F1 season, he decided that rather than relying on a steel space frame, it would be better to build everything in one structure. And oh boy, were there advantages to this. Firstly, it weighed only 30 kilograms more, yet it made the car a lot more rigid. This meant that the suspension didn't need to be as stiff, and since the suspension wasn't as stiff, the car didn't degrade tires like F1 cars of the time did. This also reduced the frontal area of the car, reducing drag. Because of the monocoque chassis, Lotus was able to secure 6 poles and 3 wins that season, and then within the next couple of decades, we saw everyone adopt this tech.
Start for Max Verstappen as Giovinazzi gets on the grass and has to get his elbows out.
Oh, that was a very simple off the line for the front 2, but there's so much action now from turn 3 to...
Alright, so the next piece of innovation is something you really can't picture an F1 car without anymore: the front and rear wings. It's hard to imagine, right? That F1 cars would just drive without wings? Like, how did they generate downforce? How did they corner? Well, this one Texan racing driver and car designer, Jim Hall, looked at an airplane one day. He noticed that airplanes have wings that help them stay up in the air, and he realized, what if he designed something similar, but to keep the car down on the ground? Because if he could achieve that, it would open up so many avenues. This would mean that cars would be able to corner better, and these cars would also be able to handle a lot more power. So then the founder of Lotus noticed this tech as well, and decided to import this technology into Formula One. When he did that, the Lotus driver Graham Hill took a pole position and managed to bag a win as well. This all happened in 1968, but the true magic happened in 1969. This is when Ferrari and Brabham got in on the action. Both these teams mounted full-width wings. However, the extra axis of movement stressed the material quite a bit, and the wings started collapsing, so wings were regulated now, thus leading to multi-element front wings. It's interesting to think that there was a time wings weren't that common, because today's F1 cars would be sent flying into the air with all that power.
Verstappen gets an excellent reaction. Hamilton, though, is ahead of Perez, but not for long, as Max Verstappen now on the inside.
If these massive things weren't being used to keep them grounded, and now that wings were starting to become common, we got to see ground effects too. So, we just talked about how teams tried to increase downforce, but ground effects used the floor of the car to do that. And considering how the 2022 F1 regulations regarding that were so strong, we can assume that this is a major part of Formula 1 now. But this isn't the first time ground effects are being used in F1. This idea was thought of in 1977, and just like most of the things I've mentioned today, this was also overseen by Lotus's Colin Chapman. Honestly, if it wasn't for him, Formula 1 would have been different today. So, he placed inverted wings inside the side pods to create two Venturi tunnels. This created areas of low pressure, thus sucking the car into the ground. This radically increased downforce compared to the conventional wings, and then sliding skirts were added to these tunnels, sealing the floor of the car to the asphalt. So this tech made things great for Lotus. But there was a problem: the inherent flex in the chassis, which the Williams team fixed in the 1980s, becoming the dominant force of the decade. So the next tech on this list is pretty common, and chances are you've driven a road car with this tech at some point as well: turbochargers. In 1977, Renault wanted to do something new and crazy, so it made an engine with a turbo. It was overweight, it was laggy, and despite its potential, the thing just didn't catch on. But then the next year, a similarly forced induction power plant helped Renault win at the Le Mans 24 Hours. This proved that the tech was quick, and it was durable. Then in 1982, Ferrari took the Constructors' Cup with a turbocharged engine, but in 1988, F1 banned them because of developmental costs. However, since then, turbos have been associated with fuel efficiency, so they were brought back, and since 2014, all F1 cars have to be hybrid, turbocharged, and have a 1.6-liter V6.
Slowing down a bit as he crosses the line. He did slow down. He did abort the fastest lap attempt. He still got the fastest lap though.
Oh no.
And finally, the last innovation on this list, the innovation that saved a lot of lives: the Halo. So the Halo is pretty much what it sounds like. It's a halo made of extremely tough materials, built around the area where the driver's head is supposed to be at. The point of this tech is to ensure the driver's safety in the event of a crash where the car goes upside down.
So he was actually, Martin, upside down, as you can see, and the roll hoop and the halo very much doing its job before the car digs in.
The Halo has, so far, saved the lives of Charles Leclerc, Romain Grosjean, Lewis Hamilton, and Zhou Guanyu. And with that, folks, these were the biggest innovations in Formula 1's history. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.